Today, I am here in front of you to share with you something very interesting, but very important and very common in front of us. And this is nothing but, yes, business communication. Business communication skills, we all know, is very, very important for all of us. In fact, we have been listening to this term from a long time. We all know that communication skills is very important. And definitely, it has the skill, it has the power to transform you, to take you to the next levels. However, a lot of people, they have a curiosity and they would like to know what is so special about the business communication or even communication skills per se. Is it really important? Will it really make a difference to me? Is it really difficult? Or this is very easy? An interesting fact in front of us is that it takes almost 3 years to learn how to use your tongue. However, it takes entire lifetime to learn when and where to use it. My goodness. We all know this. However, we forget this many a times in our personal, in our professional lives. And therefore, communication is one such powerful tool which not only helps you to create a value for yourself or to build powerful relationships or to create that amazing customer connect or create the ladder for success or loyalty, be it for the organization or for your near and dear ones. Let's understand what is so special about communication skills. What are those important critical success factors which actually can change your life? If I talk about communication skills, the majority of your perceived ability comes from not what you communicate, however, how you communicate it. How do you use your voice tone? How do you use your gestures, your body language, your eye contact? All those important things. It's very surprising for you, and it will be quite shocking that only 30%, just 30% of what do you know has an impact rather than 70% of how do you communicate it. Therefore, it doesn't matter what do you say, however, it matters a lot how do you say it. If I talk about what is communication, a normal general definition, we all know it is a skill, it is an art, it is a process where two individuals, a sender and a receiver, they exchange their ideas, their thoughts, their feelings, their opinions, data, facts, whatever you call it. However, it has to be understood by both the individuals, and there has to be immense amount of clarity and purpose. Very, very important. Clarity, purpose, and understanding. In a very simple way, I can say that communication is a process of meaningful interaction among human beings. Very meaningful interaction. It cannot be a robotic interaction. It cannot be an interaction which is just full of words and no emotions and no feelings. If that is the case, then my friend or my dear friends, that is not communication at all. That is probably a monologue or probably a tick in the box activity. Let's see how does communication process actually go. So we all know there is a sender, there is a receiver. The sender will send the message to the receiver. So a sender will decode the message and the receiver will encode the message. You can probably find out what does decode and encode mean. I leave up to you. I'd like to share that in this entire process of communication where a sender is sending the message to the receiver, two important parts are very important. The first one is acknowledgement. You have to acknowledge that you're receiving the message, you're receiving the signals, you're receiving and understanding the emotions, the feelings of the other person. And then the next one is feedback. If there is a distortion, if there is a problem, if I'm not able to decode your message, I should give an immediate feedback. Hello, I'm not able to understand you. Uh, there is some problem. I can't probably get the message right. Can you please clarify for me? It's very, very important to send that feedback. And when this process, in terms of the acknowledgement and the feedback, is fulfilled, it actually becomes a dialogue, a full fledged, effective communication. In this picture, you will see a lot of filters which I have mentioned, which talk about semantics, emotions, language, culture, role, expectations, gender, so forth and so on. And similar type of filters are applied by the receiver as well. So therefore, it is important to note that communication as a process is not easy, my friend. It is very, very difficult. And therefore, you have to practice a lot, you have to prepare a lot, and you have to ensure that all these filters which are applied, despite of that, there is an effective communication, there is an effective understanding happening during this process. So, this was about communication skills, but we have to today understand more about business communication. Business communication, we all know, is very vital, is very important. It helps in increasing the productivity in an organization. It helps in teamwork, building powerful relationships, like I've said before. It helps in a very effective, smooth planning. It helps in building your most important asset, your people. Helps in creating outstanding future ready strategy. It can help you in creating loads of ideas, innovation, creativity, so on and so on. So business communication has immense amount of benefits. No doubts about it. If we look at mere definition of business communication, so it talks about when this process of communication happens between two or more business people for effective organization and administration of business or certain goals, that is known or understood as business communication. It is also known as exchanging of business related views, ideas, and news or messages among the related parties, which can be internal, which can be external as well. However, what I personally like and see as an important outcome of this entire process is that effective business communication can definitely create an immense amount of change throughout the organization. No doubt about it. So, business communication is very, very important and very powerful. If we see business communication in more detail, so it is, I think, an extended form of what we have understood about communication. So, process of sharing knowledge, ideas, thoughts, opinions, data between people, definitely within a workplace, and it can be also outside the organization as well. In fact, business communication is a process with the help of which the employees and the management, they get a platform to interact and to connect with each other. so that both of them together can reach and achieve the organization goals. The purpose is actually that. The purpose is to correct certain mistakes, certain errors in this process. Because achieving any organization goal is not that easy. It takes time, it takes a lot of effort, a lot of planning, a lot of strategy. So communication becomes very, very vital. Like we have just seen in the past, that change management within an organization is being driven by effective communication. We all should know this fact very well, and we should rely on this fact that if we want to grow our business, if we want to take our business to next levels, no doubt, no doubt, we need to have innovation, we need to have creativity, we need to have best of the best technology, we need to have best of the best people. But then to drive all these things, effective communication and yes, effective business communication is very, very important. Now let's see how many types of business communication are there. So I have listed down three of them: internal business communication, lateral business communication, and external business communication. If you want to understand internal business communication, so this is primarily between the subordinate, I will call a team member, and a manager. So someone who is higher up in the organization, in the hierarchy, to their team members. And very important, this communication plays a huge role in all planning, achieving targets, goals, key performance areas, key performance indicators. Lateral business communication is also very important and very powerful because this is the communication which happens between two colleagues, two peers, two co workers at the workplace. This could be also intra-departmental communication or even within the department as well. And many a times, friends, I have seen that we actually lack in this communication, actually, and therefore I'm putting weight to it. We feel as if this communication is not that important. Internal business communication, primarily with my boss or with my next level of senior management, is important, or C level management is more important. This doesn't play an important role. Many a times people think like that. However, this is not the case. This lateral communication between your peers, between your co workers, is actually very helpful, and it can actually help you in your difficult times, or probably when you're joining a new organization, when you're probably starting a new project, when you have got a new assignment, when you're doing something, or when you have started with something where you're lacking with some essential skills, or probably some technology or any new business concept where you need some help from others. And then this communication plays a very important role. The third business communication type, which I've listed here, is external business communication. Again, very important as well because it deals with clients, potential clients, existing clients, vendors, partners, and this external ecosystem again is very important because you can't run a business only with your employees. You have to have a very beautiful, very powerful relationship with your external people, with your external partners, with your external vendors, suppliers, potential clients, so off and so on. And that is the irony that many a times we again ignore this piece as well. Probably at the senior management levels, they pay some importance to it, But I've seen many a times at junior levels or even at middle level management, we see that, okay, this is the job of the top management. It's not my job. So let me probably ignore it. However, we should not do it because I believe that in any organization, people at all level, they play equal amount of role, whether you are at junior level or middle level or at the top level. Now let's see, are there any more types of business communication or no? Okay, so I have listed down some more. And yes, this is purely for reference that we have formal communication, we have informal communication, we have verbal communication, we have written, digital, and non-verbal communication as well. And the definitions probably, they help us to understand what exactly is this. Formal communication will talk about communication which we do within our organization, our functions, our workplace, majorly in the form of business reports, probably creating policies, procedures for our employees, or probably we create it for our vendors, partners, for the entire organization, creating official documents, case studies, presentations. This all comes under formal communication. Informal communication, like I was talking about some time back, with your peers, with your co-workers, even with your bosses, you can do. But it's normally like a casual conversation over a cup of tea, over a cup of coffee. It can be a informal chat conversation as well. It really helps to build that relationship with your people in the ecosystem. Verbal communication, very simple to understand. It's something, which you're speaking, listening. It can be in the form of a presentation, a phone call, or a face-to-face meeting as well, where you're using words. You're passing a message with the help of words or using a presentation, a more formal mode of communication. If I talk about non-verbal communication, which I've listed towards the end, it's also very important, but then this is a communication where you're using your body language, you're using your tone of voice, and other very important non-verbal cues to share your emotions, to share your feelings, to share the intent of your message. Very powerful. We'll see this in the next, probably next 10-15 minutes, how important this part of communication can actually be. If we see written communication and digital communication, these are also two very important forms of communication. Written communication will be more of a formal communication, talking about emails, letters, memos, reports, presentations, so often, so on. And nowadays, I also see that this type of communication is also not being weighed so much because we rely so much on AI based tools, chat GPT, so often, so on, that we see that, okay, we can simply copy and paste it. However, uh, I must say that you can copy the content from all these openly available sites or AI based tools, but then you need to ensure that the intent of the message is passed to the T. So, therefore, you need to apply your brains. You need to see the intent in the message is conveyed very effectively to the other person, to the receiver, or else it can create a blunder while you're sending that important email, while you're sending that important message, or you're preparing that important report. So we need to pay an important, I would say, message in all these communications so well that there is absolute clarity. In digital communication, I think this is something which is ruling right now the entire ecosystem of communication. We talk about the digital channels, social media, instant messaging, WhatsApp, video conferencing, so on and so on. Post COVID, I think this has actually taken over like anything. And nowadays, a lot of businesses, they are growing, they're actually uh, ensuring that this form of communication is used as effectively as possible because the reach is so fast, so quick, and so effective that you can't even imagine. Okay, now let's see a role of business communication. We all know it's very important, and I'll quickly talk about it in terms of the role of business communication from top to bottom and also from bottom to top and peer to peer. So, all three of them. But before that, I will put more emphasis on top to bottom. Now, top to bottom communication is very important and it can actually create an organization and it can also destroy the organization if it is not done effectively. Why I'm saying it? Because this kind of communication is actually happening from the senior management to the team members and to other people in the organization, within the organization. Whatever are the business choices or important decisions taken at the highest levels, it is important that you communicate. You pass on these important messages to people within the organization. Normally, this kind of communication also happens from senior management, a lot of individual contributors. So, therefore, this communication brings in a lot of inclusiveness, which we talk about like anything nowadays. Bring a lot of inclusiveness, include people in your decisions, in your conversations. But many a times, the top management fails in this. So, my suggestion, my 2 cents will be that when you reach at this level, please ensure that you follow this important practice of including people, including the entire organization, doing town halls, ensuring there are relevant forums where people can participate and understand more and more about your organization, their business decisions, and a lot of important business outcomes. It can really make and break any organization. The second one, which is peer to peer communication, I have already talked a lot about it. This is an important way of building a powerful connection with your coworkers. Having a good relationship, having a wow relationship with your boss is absolutely crucial, with the top management is absolutely vital. However, this communication, peer to peer communication, helps a lot in getting a lot of those crucial, critical assignments done where you don't have all possible questions with you. And you can get very candid feedback. Hey, this is not working well, or probably you can improve. You can probably make those important changes. So, this communication is actually very vital at the workplace, and this should be really excellent. Oh, bottom to top communication. Nowadays, this communication is also happening in a lot of mature organizations, and they're accepting it because this communication is the one which is happening from bottom to top, from low level managers or team members to the top management. So, where they actually give a lot of creative ideas, they actually help the organization or any department or any function to take those effective and the right decisions as well. So, many a times, taking this feedback is also very, very important. And employees, they also feel valued because they have contributed a lot in those important decisions. But it has to be done with some caution. Many a times I've seen a lot of these young management trainees, they love to participate in such bottom to top communication forums, and with a lot of excitement, they don't think before speaking, they just say it. I'm not saying that be an introvert person. I'm not saying that you should not speak your heart out. Please do. But then think and also speak. Share your ideas, share your opinions, share your beliefs.
but then you should also know what exactly you have to say and when you have to say it. And very, very important, we all know how you have to say it. That actually makes the entire change. So, how is very critical. All right, now let's quickly probably have again a look at how important is business communication. I've spoken a lot about it, but then very quickly, business communication helps in boosting motivation, morale. I've said about it, no doubt about it. It helps in building trust and credibility. Relationships, no doubt, yes, it does. In fact, when you are able to build that strong trust factor, that strong credibility index within the organization, those beautiful relationships are bound to happen. No doubt, when these two things are there, the job satisfaction and the higher productivity will automatically happen. It will also assist you in proper and effective planning. Change management becomes very easy and very smooth if you have an effective, smooth business communication process within the organization. It helps a lot in making those very quick, effective, and right decisions. Conflict management becomes a cakewalk. So, therefore, the objective of business communication, which is more or less talking about motivating your people, increasing the efficiency, job satisfaction, productivity, attracting customers, increasing business, better image of your organization, everything is achieved with this important, powerful tool. And therefore, we say that business communication helps in overall efficient functioning of the business. So, very crucial and very critical. Your businesses will flow like anything, they will fly like a bird. It's very important to know that there are different types of communication channels, and I've listed down four of them, which is written, digital. I've spoken a lot about it. Very important, very powerful. Visual, it is actually very impactful, and the oral communication channel. Uh, In this image, if you see, I've highlighted, listed down some of the important company communication channels, which are in internal and external domain. Like you have email as one of the communication channels, you have instant messaging, you have intranet, you have online forums, telephone for sure, you have social media, internal official social media platforms as well through your HRIS systems, you have company podcasts. So many options are there. So I think we all should leverage all these options. That is the intent of this message. We should not ignore, or we should not only follow just a couple of channels. We should leverage all possible communication channels so that we can go for achieving as much as possible in terms of our quick, fast, and effective messages to be communicated to our people. Uh, I've listed down some of the important 12 customer communication channels. This will be a good food for thought for us, where we can see some of the options for voice channels, community groups, forums, written communication channels, talking about emails, surveys, forms, chat channels in terms of live chats, social media, messenger apps, face to face channels like video chats, in store communication, forums, so off and so on. We can use all these important customer communication channels to benefit us. Oh, one of the important facets of communication is that it is very tricky. It's not easy, it is difficult. And the irony is that whenever you are trying to do or whenever you're trying to follow this process of communication or business communication in the workplace, there are a lot of barriers. In this image, we can see the two individuals. They're talking, they're trying to talk to each other. There is a third individual also, but then the third individual is trying to see if the messages can be passed on, but it seems to be there is a barrier. And yes, there are barriers to communication, a lot of barriers. Some of the barriers I have listed down here. The most easiest one, physical barrier. Noise, it can actually create a lot of problems for you if you're trying to communicate even the simplest of your messages to your people, to your colleague, to your bosses, anyone. So we need to be cautious about it. Is there any unwanted noise in the room? Then please, we need to do something about it. Inappropriate medium. Many a times I've seen this really happens. And this happens to an extent that we are not able to realize it. I have to simply pass on a very quick message to my colleague or to my peer, and instead of picking up a phone, I will write a long email. Is it right? Is it appropriate? I would say no. And when I have to share a very detailed information message, which has certain clauses, certain points, is it important and is it okay if I simply pass on that phone or probably type it or share that over the phone? I think no. I should write an email with all these details so that it gets documented and it is also well received by the receiver, by the intended party. So, using right appropriate medium is actually very, very important when you're trying to communicate within the workplace or outside the workplace as well, because this becomes one of the important barriers. Assumptions, misconceptions, one of the important barriers of communication. I assume that he does not care about me. I assume that he is or she is not listening to me. I assume that I know everything, so I need not to listen to him. These are some of the important assumptions that which can actually be a barrier in your entire communication process. So please do not assume. Do not think anything before the communication process starts. And thinking, I will replace it by assumption. So you should think, but do not judge or do not assume. I correct there myself. Emotional noise, very, very important. You might not have heard about it too much, but then, as I've shared with you, physical barrier noise is very critical. So, emotional noise is much more critical because emotional noise talks about your personal agenda, your personal intent of not doing the communication effectively or hurting someone. So, therefore, the communication will never ever happen in the right way. So, you have to take this emotional noise out of your agenda, out of this process, and then start this communication. Or else take a pause. Do not do that communication right now. Probably do it tomorrow, or day after tomorrow, or after an hour, or in the evening, but don't do it now. Take a break, take a pause, think about that how it is going to benefit if you have any personal agenda or emotional noise. Poor listening skills. We'll talk about listening in upcoming videos on this learning channel. And listening is actually the toughest part in this entire communication process. And most of us actually have very, very poor listening skills. So it can be absolutely a major distractor. I'm probably pushing some messages on my mobile phone while I'm talking to somebody. I'm not looking at him or her. I'm probably not focusing at all. I'm having a cup of coffee, tea, and I'm not listening To the other person, I'm probably looking at some of the papers, files, watching something on the television. It can be anything. So listening has to be done with an intent to understand, with an intent to focus, with an intent to make that effective communication. Listening is not or should not be done primarily just like a tick in the box activity. So it can be, and it is, an important barrier in communication. Distraction. So, yes, I was talking about television is on, or there is some party going on, there is a lot of noise. All these can be distractions. Everything is a distraction for you. So, cut down on these distractions. Mobile phone nowadays, that is an important example of distraction for all of us. So, whenever I communicate, I want to have an effective communication. I normally keep my phone aside, or probably I will keep my phone on silent because it's an important discussion, important communication, which I want to do either with my team members or with my people. So, definitely, we need to reduce on this point as much as possible. We cannot eliminate them, it is really not possible. Language differences, I think we can't do much about it, but then, yes, if language or cultural difference is there, then we need to be really very sensitive about the communication which we are doing with others, because then we have to ensure that there is a cultural gap also. So we have to be cautious about it, we have to be sensitive about it. And many a times I share this piece of advice with a lot of people when you're talking to somebody from the West, from UK, from US, uh, from Europe. You need to be very cautious that they do not want anyone else just to enter in their private arena, a private zone, just like that. It seems that they're very extrovert and they like to talk, they like to communicate well, and we feel, oh wow, oh she's speaking probably so casually, and she's very interactive. Hey, I like to communicate with her, so probably not intending, but then just happens in a flow that I cross those limits and then enter into that personal zone arena. It's a caution sign. Don't do it, please. So it's very important to understand the cultural differences and uh, be very cautious about it. Language, definitely, it can play an important role of a barrier. So you need to definitely work on the other ones so that at least communication to an extent can happen in this case effectively. Okay, so let's have a quick look. What are those important areas of the weakness when we talk from the sender's end? And we will also have a look from the receiver's end, because we all know that communication is a two-way process between the sender and the receiver. So if there is a barrier, this barrier will be from both the sides. It cannot be from only one side. So from the sender, I want to communicate or I'm trying to communicate, but I'm not using the proper voice tone. I'm just being very, very robotic, very, very monotonous. So, this inappropriate tone can actually create problems because I will not be coherent in my message. We'll talk about it in my future learning videos on this learning channel, Learn, Apply, Reflect. That what does coherence mean? And it's an important part of 7 C's of effective communication. So you're trying to congratulate someone, you're probably trying to show empathy in a case of distress, but then the other person, the receiver, is actually not able to get it right. So, inappropriate tone or approach can be an important weakness. As a sender, as an initiator of the communication, you need to correct it. Lack of sufficient knowledge. We all know that, and we try to practice on this. Be a subject matter expertise, right? You should know the fundas, or normally it is an Indianism. We talk about it. You should know the knowledge. You should have the entire process knowledge, process expertise, and it really helps. You might ask me a question that initially we mentioned, and we said that it doesn't matter what do you know or what do you say, it matters a lot how do you say it. I'm still saying yes, that is important. But then your conviction in what you're saying, your confidence in what you're saying will only come when you know your subject very well, when you know your topic very well. You can negotiate when you know the facts very well. You can influence the other person when you know that how you can do it and what are the core important areas you can highlight while you're influencing the other person. So, knowing your subject, having sufficient subject knowledge is very, very important. Lack of adequate skills, if I'm not a good communicator, I don't have the right skills, it is definitely going uh, to hamper the entire process. So, gaining those right skills is actually very important. And if you don't have those skills, then please train yourself and get your skills honed. Probably you can do that by watching these powerful, short, bite size. I won't say bite size this one, but yes, these short, powerful, impactful videos and try to practice them. We'll talk about it in our future upcoming videos as well. How you should focus on implementation of what you learn from all these videos because implementation is the key. The name of the channel is also Learn, Reflect, and Apply. So, reflection is important and application is also very, very important. In fact, application comes first and then the reflection. Let's look at some of the other weaknesses. Lack of planning and preparation. Now, this is also one of the important areas which we normally ignore. And we say that, oh, I know this subject very well. I know that I have to have this meeting, I have to have a discussion or this presentation. So there is no need of preparation. And this becomes the point where we actually start failing in this entire process, start failing in creating that impact during this process. So, preparation, planning is very, very important. If you prepare well, you will succeed. If you will not prepare, then definitely your chances of failure they become high. Not much attention given to the feedback or responses. I think if you're not doing it, then definitely you are lacking some of the important skills. Because if you're not able to catch up on those important cues when you are receiving those important cues, non-verbal cues, or many a times verbal cues also from the receiver, then I think you are actually not participating in effective communication. You are actually doing uh, communication just for the sake of it. So this can be an important weakness from the sender side. Let's have a look. What can be the weakness or the areas of weakness from the receiver side? Okay, uh, some of the areas. I don't want to receive your message, boss. I don't want to communicate with you. Probably you want. So I have a personal agenda, or I'm not happy with you. So I'm reluctant to receive. I am judging you, or I have an assumption, or I have certain fixed image about you, definitely this can be an important barrier in the communication. I'm not familiar with the subject. For example, if somebody starts communicating with me about, let's assume, about design thinking. It's a very new subject, not that new now, but somebody who's not uh, used to this subject or has not heard much about it. Or let's suppose robotics. Yeah, let's take an example of robotics. Then probably I might not be able to understand a lot of important facts which are getting communicated, which are being spoken in that forum or that meeting or that discussion. So, not being familiar with the subject can be a barrier. Not paying attention, not listening, probably I'm playing with my mobile phone or I am occupied somewhere else. I'm physically present, but I'm not mentally present, can be an important barrier. Only hearing, so we'll talk about it as I was talking, as I was mentioning on this channel, Learn, Apply, Reflect. There are a lot of powerful videos coming, and these videos will help you to also know the difference between hearing and listening. So, listening is a conscious activity, listening is a conscious skill in place, it's a conscious process. Hearing is not a conscious process. Hearing means when the sound, any sound, it reaches your eardrums. For example, this sound, this is reaching your eardrum, this is hearing. And when you are listening to me, when I'm sharing this important information with you, that process comes with conscious effort and you're trying to understand what I am trying to say. So, only hearing to the sound, not listening, can be a very, very important barrier. Not clarifying, if I am listening to you and if I'm not understanding something, then I should definitely ask questions. Ask questions to clarify. If I'm not doing it, then I am not having that effective process of communication. So, therefore, it has to be corrected, and it's also an important barrier. Assumption, we have talked about it. I will not repeat it. It is definitely a very important barrier. Okay, yes. Now let's see what are those important elements of communication. I'll take a pause for a couple of seconds. Any idea? Three important elements which are very crucial for the entire process of communication. You might have heard about it. And it is linked with one of the important theories or research as well. Here we go. Okay, now these are certain percentage symbols 7, 38, 55. You might have heard about it 55%, 38%, and 7%. Any idea, any thought? What would 7% be for? What would 38% be for? And what would 55% be for? Okay, let me give you some ideas, some cues about it. I'm talking about body language, I'm talking about words, I'm talking about voice tone. Any guesses you would like to make? Normally, whenever I've asked this question to a lot of people, in my sessions, oh, words are very important. So I would say it should be 33, 33, 33. So all three are very important. Or, like I said, words are very important. So 55 to words. Many times when the percentages are not revealed to them, they will say 70% words, 20% body language, and 10% voice tone. So all these combinations are there, and where the weightage majorly is on words and not body language or voice tone, or it is kind of an equal weightage. Let's see the results. Oh, wow, very, very interesting. And this shows that body language, wow, plays most important role in your face-to-face communication. Professor Albert Mehrabian, he did this research long time back, and this is still valid nowadays. There's a lot of debate happening on this, that how valid this is. I still believe this is really valid, and it is uh, very relevant in nowadays as well, because your body language can actually play an important role in your entire face-to-face communication process. We'll talk about it later. Your voice tone absolutely is the way I'm trying to communicate my message to you. I'm trying to use those important pauses, trying to intonate my voice using that right, relevant voice tone, trying to put emphasis is actually making a difference when I'm trying to pass on that message to you. So, voice tone is definitely very important. And like we discussed and like we said, it doesn't matter what do you say, it matters a lot. How do you say it? So, just 7% words. Many times I give this example that there is a sentence, and this one sentence can have multiple meanings by simply putting emphasis on each word. We'll talk about it in our future learning videos on this channel, not right now, but think about it. Food for thought for you. Okay, does this picture remind you of somebody in your workplace or in your family or anywhere? Yes, no, maybe? Or does this tell your story? Oh, I find this person quite sad, not happy, disturbed, probably thinking about something, lost. And yes, doesn't give me a very positive message or input that yes, this person is ready to listen to me. So, what we are trying to talk about is your facial gestures, your expressions, your posture, your overall body language is actually very, very important. If you can see here, I've listed down almost more than 12 facial expressions, and there are numerous, loads of them. These facial expressions can change from being a smiling person to a sad person to an anxious person to an angry person, so often so on. So, facial expressions are very important. And many times there is no facial expression, so it is absolutely neutral. However, the other person is sharing a very happy moment of his or her life. So you need to also be coherent and share the same expression with him or her. It is so, so important. There are so many gestures I've tried to show here, and these gestures are a mix of positive and the negative ones. Raising a finger to someone, not accepted. It's a negative gesture. You should avoid it. Thumbs up in a positive way, victory sign, open palms, you should use it. So, gestures, your hand movements, they actually play a very, very important role while you are in a face to face communication mode. Your posture, whether you're sounding confident or you're leaning on a chair or you're leaning on the sofa or probably you're drooping, all these important postures pass on that important communication message. Hey, I am not interested in listening to you. Oh, yes, I am very much interested in listening to you. So, your posture, your gestures, your expressions will actually share your intent of being participative in the communication channel or the process. Very important point to be noted. I'm repeating your facial expression, your posture, and your gestures will actually show your intent, the right intent of you being participative in the communication process. It can be a meeting, it can be a discussion, it can be a town hall, anything. It can be a one on one discussion with your team member, with your boss, anything. So it is very crucial and very important. Let's have a look. Okay, some of the typical facial expressions. Let's see what each facial expression signifies. The first one, anger. Okay. Second one, startled. Wow. Third one, dislike. I do not like you at all. Surprised. Oh, shocked. Happy. Oh, I'm a happy person. Sad. There is something bad. news, and I'm not really happy about it. So your facial expressions actually give the message that what are you thinking and what kind of mood you are in. I was talking about gestures. Yes, the first one, pointing fingers, is like aiming at a person. Oh, I'm going to shoot you. Smiling face is always the positive or the right way of being participative in the communication. Unless or until it's a very sad moment, someone has passed away, then you can't smile. Please be conscious about it. Victory sign, V sign, yes, you can motivate people, you can motivate your team members, and you can say that, yes, let's go for it, let's achieve it, always. Okay. Similarly, thumbs up to motivate your people, to motivate your teams. You can do it, and you should do it. Waving hand, acknowledging the audience, again, a sign that, yes, thank you, thanks a lot for your acknowledgement, for your motivation. So, gestures definitely play a very important role. Let's have a look at some of the negative body language points. Okay, avoiding eye contact, we'll talk about it, is a negative body language. Fidgeting, playing with something when you are talking to someone. It can be a pen, it can be a marker, it can be mobile phone, it can be anything. Probably playing with your hair. This is called fidgeting, and definitely does not give that right signal to the other person that you're actually listening or you're playing with that pen, paper, mobile phone, or with their hair or whatever. Leaning against the wall or desk for support, not being very participative, shows very, very clearly. Banks, tables, points, like I mentioned some time back, pointing at someone, hey, listen to me. It is actually not required to emphasize. You can always use a very open palm or body language, even to emphasize on a point, or use the right voice tone. That can be really helpful. Standing in a cross arm position, we'll have a look at some of the images or pictures that this kind of position is actually not right. You should crush it and throw it in the dustbin. Cross body language, and trust me, I can see a lot of people who are still in this kind of posture, cross hand position, many a times. Hands in the pocket, not at all acceptable. Leaning against a wall or leaning on the chair, not at all acceptable. Cross legs, avoid it as much as possible. These are some of the important and easily visible areas, where somebody can easily get that signal that, hey, I think this person is not willing to participate in this communication. So crush it and throw it in the dustbin. What are the recommendations then? Okay, so start with a very nice greeting. It's a way to open up the communication. Hey, good morning. Hello, good afternoon. How are you? So it's a good way to start off. Don't blink your eyes too much. Focus on the eye contact. We'll talk about eye contact and how you should maintain it, but don't blink it. If you have certain concerns with that, then you should always visit a doctor or an eye specialist, and then focus on concentrating on a subject or an object, and it will really help you to maintain the right, I would say, movements of your eyes when they blink too much or at a very fast pace. Some people have this kind of discomfort, or I would say a concern. So they can address it in this way. So, eye contact, yes, very, very important. And we'll talk about it when you're talking to someone. Look at the other person and try to make that eye contact very clearly. Don't bite your lips often, or probably, try to use a lot of your tongue when you are probably speaking, because that can be a cause of your distraction. You can see a lot of your speakers many a times they tend to do this. I think that is a sign of nervousness. So you can use it once in a while. That is okay, because speakers, they feel thirsty or they need water. And if they don't have water, and then probably they will like to at least use this to ensure that they are able to speak well. But if you're doing it too much, or if you're overdoing it, then it can be a sign of your nervousness. Always keep your mouth shut when you are listening. So listen very, very actively. Do not speak too much. Always listen with the intent to understand, not to reply. We will talk about it as well. Not today, but yes, definitely in the next upcoming channel video. Maintaining an appropriate position and avoiding constant abrupt movements. It should be avoided because then it can be a cause of distraction. Very, very important. Okay, let's have a look now. What are the other recommendations? Controlling the movements of your hands, keeping them visible. So you can use your palm, you can use your hand, but again, do not overdo it. The moment you overdo it, it becomes a problem. So do it to an extent. Do not allow, try to avoid any object in between you and your audience or probably your receiver. Avoid as much as possible. If it is not within your control, then probably you can ignore it, but if you can, then avoid it. Try to adapt your clothing as much as possible, looking at the social, economic, and other characteristics of the gathering. I give this example many a times. When you visit a manufacturing plant, you can't be overly dressed like a corporate employee. You have to change it. You have to uh, give them a message that I'm one amongst you. I made this mistake many a time in the past, and I could sense, yes, I think it is not happening. So you need to take care of your dressing and clothing as well. And similarly, when you are coming from a plant to the corporate, then you have to dress well, properly well. And we'll talk about that in one of the last slides as well, that what is the appropriate way to dress up yourself. At least the basic ones, you can always take care of that. Do not cross your arms, we have spoken about it, or do not keep your arms over your chest. Do not cover your mouth with your hand when you're speaking. I think no one does it. We only did it during the COVID times, and now that time is over by the grace of God. So I think no need to do it now, at least. And if you are not well, if you are probably suffering from any infection, any viral infection, then you can always wear a mask. So people understand that, and that is okay. Maintain a relaxed posture. Be always calm, be always composed, because that will not show your nervousness to your audience. Okay, let's have a quick look at non-verbal communication now. I've already spoken about it, that this is very important, and this is an important part or a process when you send and receive messages without using words or without even speaking anything or writing anything. So, non-verbal communication, like we just had a look, body language, gestures, facial expressions, posture, eye contact, appearance, all these things, office aids also, they play a very important role in your entire communication process. We can see a lot of beautiful, uh, open, confident, relaxed, trustworthy postures. This is the importance of your non verbal communication. Really, very, very important. Oh, which one would you choose amongst them? I don't have the another picture right now, but just have a look at this one. Would you be one amongst them? The answer will be big, big no. So we will delete it. And this one, yes, very calm, confident, smiling, happy people, comfortable postures. Yes, this is the one I should be like. And follow it. Be like them when you are at your workplace. You will definitely see a lot of beautiful results. We're talking about eye contact. It's a powerful form of nonverbal communication, the most powerful. And it creates large influence And a lot of people, it can be used in a small gathering, can be used in a big gathering as well. And it's an important sign. It displays actually a lot of confidence, respect, and it shows that you're actually participating in this communication process or channel. It can be a one-on-one, it can be one to many as well, it can be large forums gatherings. You can see in this image that when you're actually making an eye contact, you have to look into the eyes of the other person, but do not make the other person uncomfortable. Look in such a way that the other person does not become conscious, and make and maintain appropriate distance. Very, very important. An important tip I will also give to you: when you are making an eye contact to a huge or a big gathering, try to look at the heads of the individuals. Definitely, you can't look at their eyes because there is a huge distance between you and them. But try to move your eye contact from one end to other end, because that gives the confidence that you are trying to connect with each one of them, not only one person. Many a times I've seen, and it is actually a negative eye contact when you look at the ceiling of the room or when you look at the floor. Don't do that. Sign of nervousness. Or when you only focus on one person, it can be towards one of the corners. That is also a sign of the nervousness. If there are 100 people in the room, try to navigate your eye contact from one end to the other end, but please, please do it slowly. Do not do it at a fast pace. You will sound like a comedian. If you do like at a very, very fast pace, left to right, right to left, left to right, right to left. So, eye contact is something which you have to practice. And once you practice, you will be really very effective. In fact, the entire communication piece has to be practiced like anything. I was talking about your parents. Many a times we ignore and we think that how come parents can play an important role in business communication, or when I'm going for a meeting, or when I'm going to attend a conference, or probably when I'm going to have a formal or maybe an informal discussion or attend a town hall. But no, you never know when you will meet somebody very, very senior, or someone who's very important to you in that forum, in that meeting, in that discussion. So you should be nicely dressed. You should always focus on your personal hygiene. Very important. I will not talk about it much. About your hair, about your personal hygiene, your nails, and everything. Many a times you might feel or you might see yourself in an uncomfortable position if you will not focus on these small elements. Try to wear always neutral colors at work. If there is a uniform, then you are safe, then there is no problem. Otherwise, try to wear neutral colors. Always recommended. Groom your hair, facial hair also, very, very important. Choose professional footwear and develop a beautiful smile. I think these elements are common for both male and female population. I've uh, shared some of the images from the male gender perspective, but then it is absolutely okay for both of the genders, whether male or female. So you can see in both these images that the two of them well dressed, even if you're not wearing a blazer or a jacket, I mean, it's a coat, still you can be dressed well. Your clothes are ironed, you have focused on your personal hygiene, your shirt is tucked up, you're wearing matching belt with your shoe. So if your shoe is of black color, your belt should be of black color. Your socks are matching with the color of your shoes, or it is a shade darker, not a shade lighter. Many times I've seen a lot of even senior people wearing socks of white or light colors. Try to focus on these important points. It will really be very helpful. because at times you can be in an uncomfortable position. So try to avoid it. One point which I have not mentioned here about office aids, then office aids are also very important whenever you are going for any meeting, any discussion, any presentation. So you have to make yourself comfortable with the office aids, because if you are not aware about video conferencing, or nowadays we do a lot of MS Teams meeting or on WebEx or on Zoom, it can really hamper your communication process. You can probably get delayed, or you can get nervous, or probably you might not be able to even communicate at all. You should be aware about where is a slide changer, where is a projector, how you have to connect your laptop, your iPad, and all these things. So get hold of your office aids, how you have to use a flip chart, a marker on the whiteboard. All these things are very, very important. I've seen many a times a lot of presenters, when they're writing on the whiteboard, they write in a very small font size as if they're writing on the notepad. Now, that's an important point, because then you are communicating with a huge audience and you are the presenter. There are about 30, 40, 50 participants. So the last one, the person who is sitting at the end, should be able to see you. That is the kind of impact you have to create, and the kind of comfort level you have to be in with all the office things. Okay, so this was for today, and I'm sure that you will have gained something out of this important video which I have prepared for you to know more about business communication, and we have been able to touch a part of it. But then, whatever I have touched upon, all these points, all these pieces are very, very important. So, before we close today's session, or this video, you may call it, let's have a quick summary of what we covered. The first and the most important point: it takes 3 years to learn how to use your tongue when you're a baby. However, it takes entire lifetime to use it effectively. So therefore, communication, my friends, is not that easy. In fact, effective communication is not that easy. You can always communicate, you can always speak, but then effectively communicating, creating that impact, knowing each other well, understanding, listening, really needs a lot of practice. So please focus on that. It doesn't matter, I've spoken about it. How do you say it? No, it doesn't matter what you say it matters a lot. How do you say it? So I was checking if you are listening attentively or not. So, how using your voice tone, using your body language can create, can make a huge amount of impact, rather than simply showing your knowledge to the other people. That will not serve the purpose. It's a two-way process. Sender, receiver, two important points if you remember: feedback and acknowledgement. Very, very important. If the communication process has to be effective, these two things have to happen regularly. And yes, communication, business communication is very important, very vital for any organization. It can make and destroy any organization. It can yield productivity, can increase a lot of efficiency, it can help in conflict management, making effective decisions. So please focus on effective business communication. There are multiple channels of communication, business communication. Please try to use as many of them, because you can't just simply rely on one or two of them. There is a possibility if you only rely on one or two of them, then you might not fly like this bird. Okay, let's have a look at the other ones. Albert Mehrabian's model: 55%, 38%, and 7%. Body language, the highest importance goes to body language, gestures, facial expressions. Very, very important. Eye contact, voice tone, 38%, and words, just 7%. So we need to be conscious about it, very conscious about it. Uh, Not only focusing on the body language, but also gestures and eye contact and expressions can actually help you in avoiding or taking care of the important barriers which normally come up in any communication process. Because we have to understand that communication as a process is not that easy, and especially at workplace, especially in business, when there are so many uncontrollable factors, then we have to be really very, very conscious, and we have to ensure that we reduce as many barriers as possible in this entire process. So, this was a quick summary of what we learned today and what we gained today about business communication. I'm sure that you must have picked up a couple of points from this learning video. And if you want to keep your learning journey on, you want to learn newer and newer things, we will be rolling out different videos on different important skills, not only communication. We'll talk about personality development, we'll talk about public speaking, we'll talk about negotiation skills, we'll talk about conflict management, decision making, problem solving, some of the important IT tools as well. So many skills, so many competencies which you can hone through these freely available learning videos. And that is the objective of this learning channel, which is Learn, Apply, Reflect on YouTube. Please like, subscribe, share your comments, share your feedback, and keep on learning these skills. Enjoy and learn them in the most easier way. Thank you so much, and keep watching this space. Press on the bell icon so that you receive all the notifications. Thank you so much. Thank you.